I'm inside and I saw The Boys Season 2, Episode 1, The Big Ride. It is directed by Phil Segrisha, written by Eric Kripke, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts and we're following Huey, Frenchie, Kumiko, and they're all in hiding. Not to mention that we got Billy Butcher is just gone. Where could he have possibly gone? It seems like Huey in this episode is trying to determine what to do. And also they learned that there's like a soup terrorist, and that's no good. Soup terrorism's no good. And of course, when they're like, okay, so we gotta deal with this whole situation, okay? We got a soup terrorist on the loose, and we gotta inform the CIA agent that we have cahoots with. Oh no, the person's dead? Oh, what happened? Well, this doesn't seem suspicious at all. It totally seems suspicious. 110% suspicious. Something happened here. Something's happening behind the scenes. And of course, I do like Frenchie and Kumiko's relationship. It's starting to blossom. I appreciate them. It seems like Kumiko is still trying to deal with her brother. Where is my brother? Where is my family? I'm like, do you have any family? She doesn't talk that, at all. She's mute. But it seems like she's longing for her family via Frenchie translating it for the audience and also for the rest of the group, which I like. And I just like their relationship. And speaking of Huey's like, oh, hey, Annie, do you want to get in trouble? And I'm like, bro, why do you gotta rope her into all of this stuff? You're trying to take down Vought. You're trying to take down the company behind the 7. And so you're like, okay, we gotta have a sample of Compound V, and we're going to release it to the media. That's the goal, is have them deal with all the press or whatever. And so we have Annie's here, and Annie's like, all right, yeah, I'll steal Compound V. And I'm just like, wow. I know that you hate Vought so much, but you're not at all scared of the consequences that could be had. And I'm like, there might be some scary moments where you could get caught with Compound V, but you're in the process of smuggling it. You're going to smuggle it. And I'm like, please, Annie, I hope that you're safe. I know you're starting up with the plans. We gotta get some Compound V, and you're not exactly executing on that plan in this episode, but that's later episodes. In this one, she's like, yeah, I'm totally down on your side. I'm a little bit hesitant at first, but I gotta, I have to. And it takes her a while to warm up to it, because Huey's initially, his initial way of asking her is kind of in a shaky manner. He's kind of weak about it. And I'm like, bro, I get it. She's your girlfriend, and you're asking her to do something high and mighty, but maybe you should ask her with a lot more confidence, man. Oh man, but I'm so surprised that she even said yes, she was gonna go undo it. And also we have Homelander's a big new threat. His mom, his manager / caretaker / handler is gone. And so Homelander is experiencing all the powers that he has. He's able to experience everything without supervision. So he's the top of Vought, and it seems like he's determined to stay on top. He's like, all right, it is now my team. It's my team. Oops, I hit the microphone. It's my team, mine. Those feelings start to blossom in this episode, especially since he has total control. And I feel like he's the type of person to demand people behave in a certain way and make it so he's the strongest person on the team. Just optically, Also, the Deep is excommunicado. He has to go to, essentially AA, but it's for sexual assault. S-A-A? What is it? I don't know. Anyway, he's, talking to a therapist. He's like, man, why do I even do all of this? You know, the therapist is imploring him to understand himself, which I like because he's got some major issues that haven't been uncovered yet, and they don't begin to uncover in this episode. I'm just excited to see what the deep problems are. Ooh, and I'm also really excited to see if Homelander turned that on. Did he turn on the grinding machine? This episode is exciting. I'm excited to watch the rest of the season. What do you think of this episode, chat? I enjoy this. I like Huey has assumed responsibility. He has assumed leadership status, but also Frenchie is there to talk with him at the same time. They're like kind of co-leaders at this point, but I really think they really need Billy Butcher. So I gotta give this episode is like a solid 7.8 out of 10. I'm in Salad and I saw The Boys Season 2, Episode 2, Proper Preparation and Planning. It is directed by Liz Friedlander, written by Rebecca Sonnenschein, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts when we're following Billy Butcher and he's alive. I'm happy about this. He's trying to look up information about Becca, his wife. He thought that Becca was simply raped and killed by Homelander. But in fact, she was just raped by Homelander and she has a son. It seems like Billy Butcher is going to go after Becca. Meanwhile, Annie is like, oh, I stole some Compound V and I'm going to put it in my boot. Oop. And guess who's here? A-Train is here. What'd you put in your boot? Takes out what's in her boot. Compound V? What's this about? Oh, you with the boys? Ooh, you're with the boys. I'm gonna tell. And I'm like, oh boy, how is Annie gonna get out of this situation? Because she could get ran through. She could get ran through like he ran through a popcorn and ended up murdering, you know. Or, you know, could just use that for blackmail. Wow, and she does do that. And I'm like, oh, good on you, Annie. She's learning. Man, I remember Annie from the beginning of the series. She was nice, sweet, innocent. I don't know if she would have used blackmail, but in this episode, she's blackmailing A-Train. Like, yo, you tell my secret, I'm gonna tell your secret. You killed Popclaw, dude, just because you wanted to go fast. You just wanted to keep on going fast. And I'm like, okay, so it seems like them two are at a stalemate. And I'm just sitting here like, okay. I'm thinking there could possibly be one or both secrets revealed in the future if one of them messes up and so the other is like, oh, you have more secrets than I do. I'm gonna tell your secrets. That's just my prediction for the series. But that's not happening in this episode. Speaking of Becca, speaking of Homelander, Homelander's like, I want to play with my son. Becca is like, you know, naturally like, no, he doesn't have your powers. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's known in the universe that people are given Compound V in order to gain superpowers. But do these powers go down, passed down generationally? And I'm thinking no, because Compound V is just something you give somebody and then they have superpowers. It doesn't seem like it would pass down genetically. However, though, you do got genetics are literally being altered here. So it is a possibility that they could be passed down. It's a whole thinky think that I'm having while watching this episode. I'm like, oh boy. I'm curious if Ryan has Homelander's powers. Also, it seems like Ryan hates Homelander. Like, Homelander's like, come here, son, come here. And he's like, I don't even want to do it, Dad. I don't like you. And, like, Becca's over here being... She's a single mom, essentially. Homelander just kind of comes and goes whenever. And... Becca doesn't seem like the type of chick that she wants Homelander to have any influence over her son. She says it explicitly. She's like, no, I'm not having Homelander raise my son. Homelander's gonna raise him to be the worst person ever. I'm trying to raise him right. Also, it's fun. We got a little pal. Homelander's like, I'm gonna see if he has powers. Come here, come to the roof. Come to the roof. I'm gonna push you off the roof. And he just falls. And I'm like, okay, you kind of done goofed there, Homelander. Oops. And of course, Ryan's like super pissed. He's like super injured. Or it appears, I thought he would be, but he just kind of gets up normally. I'm like, this is weird. This is sussy. And then, you know, they get in a little bit of a fight, and he's like incredibly angry. And he like shoots out his laser eyes, like, ah! It's like, whoa, this guy has powers? And I'm thinking, okay, so the compound V like changes the genetics that you have, and then those genetics get transferred down to a child. So that child doesn't have to take any compound V. It just has those altered genetics from Homelander. Okay. And in that case then, how many powers of Homelander's does he have? Becca's a human. Homelander's got that compound V in him. He's a soup. How many powers does he have? And I'm thinking that while I see him develop some of his powers, I'm like, all right, let's go. What I find the most interesting about this episode is the fact that we have the Deep, and he's in therapy, and he's taking some sort of hallucinogenic, and he's having his stomach gills are talking to him. I'm like, whoa, you have gills? That's interesting. But also, he's like, oh man, I don't want to look at my gills at all. But like, his gills are talking. And I really like the way that the show does this, because his gills are talking. His gills are like, you violate other women because you can't accept your own body. And he just like hates himself deeply. When he got the compound V, he got gills on him. And he just like hated it. He's like always wearing that suit as a result. I mean, I get it. These gills kind of are gross. These are really gross gills. But you got them on your body. You gotta accept that you got your gills on your body. And it takes a while for the Deep to really accept it. There was a point where he's like, I don't want to look, I don't want to look, And then at some point, the gills convinced him to take a look at his own gills. He's looking at his own gills and he's like, you know, I accept my body. I love myself. It takes a whole hallucinogenic trip in order for him to accept his body. I'm like, okay. So it looks like the Deep has accepted his body. I hope he doesn't do any more bad against women. Because what he did with Starlight was no good. That was not good at all. And I feel really bad for Starlight. She had to go through this because of the Deep's own personal problems. This episode makes me really excited for the upcoming episodes because it just establishes so much in one episode. It establishes like so many plot points, right? I'm like, oh wow, Ryan has powers. What is he going to do with that? Is he going to love his dad? He's going to hate his dad. Oh wow, the Deep, he accepts his body. What is he going to do with that? He's going to show off his body. He's going to open his thing and be like, I'm here. Here I am. Here's my gills, right? I'm excited. Also, Annie almost got caught, but she was slick, and I liked that. I like how slick she is, and I think it's kind of risky for Huey to bring her in the first place, but I get it. You're trying to take down Vought, you're trying to take the compound V to the media, I get it. So, this episode, it gets like a solid 8 out of 10. I'm excited and I saw The Boys Season 2, Episode 3, Over the Hill with the Swords of 1,000 Men. It is directed by Steve Boyum, written by Craig Rosenberg, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts and we're following what happened after Ryan got his powers. Well, he attacks Homelander with it because he hates Homelander. I'm like, good for you, Ryan. Oh man, Me and my homies hate Homelander. Ryan's over here like, I'm gonna protect Becca, man. And I'm like, you should. Homelander's the worst. I'm like, this is a mama's boy over here. Okay. I wouldn't want Homelander to be my dad because Homelander is the worst. And it seems like Homelander is getting more and more angry with everyone within the Seven. He's like, you know. Oh man, I love the sound design. Every time he's like looking at the screen, he's like, he's watching someone on the news, like maybe it's somebody in the Seven, like get more popular than him, or like get any sort of news on them. You know what the Homelanders does? He does like a very angry voice. He's like, right? Without the noise that I created with my mouth. And also the sound design of the episode, it just gets like more intense. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's just creating tension. I feel like Homelander's about to snap at any given moment. He just seems like he's trying to withhold all of his anger and all of his powers at any given moment, and he seems like a very, very dangerous fellow. Also, speaking of dangerous, Annie has snuck Compound V, the information about Compound V being what has created the supers, the soup boys. And I'm like, oh, scandalous. Now the news is going to talk about this all over the place. Ooh! And I'm like, okay, this is exciting. Let's see what the news says. Let's see how Vought gets out of this. Because this is a little bit of a sticky situation. Compound V creates superheroes, chat. Oh my goodness, Compound V creates superheroes. Superheroes aren't born, it's actually created in a lab. What if people knew about this and they were pissed off and angry about it? I would be angry if I saw that on the news and I was living in a world full of soups, you know? Also, Kimiko's brother is that terrorist. There was a terrorist along the loose, and we found out in last episode that, she's actually related to that guy, the terrorist. And I'm just looking at the boys, and they're like, man, what are we going to do about this? This is Kimiko's brother. They seem to love each other, and she misses him. But he's, like, doing terrorism, and that's no good. Why would you do a terrorism? And I'm just thinking, are they going to keep him protected, or are they going to take him to the CIA and like tell him about this terrorist that they have access to, that the boys have access to, you know? And so I'm thinking, okay, maybe they'll do the right thing. But what is the right thing in this situation? Well, they decide, okay, we should probably give him up. Let's give him up to the CIA. Let's see what they do with him. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's not a good idea. It's never a good idea to trust the CIA with valuable information or whatever, because they ended up losing. Well, they didn't end up losing him. He ended up running away right as they were about to get him in their grasp, which is essentially losing them. Well, yeah, they pretty much lost him, and now he's just out in the weeds. He's just gone. And I'm like, oh boy, this is crazy. I wonder what's going to happen. So Compound V is now revealed to be the source of all the soup's powers to the public, and now it seems like more people are becoming more and more aware, more and more skeptical of it, although we don't see all of the backlash at this start of this media cycle. We just see Homelander being really pissed. It seems like everybody's just trying to keep a leash on Kenji during this episode. The CIA, the boys. Well, I guess not leash. They're trying to, like, bring him to, I'd say, a crate. If he was, like, a wild animal and he escaped his crate, they're trying to bring him back to his crate in, like, a literal metaphorical sense. And he's just, like, running around, you know, scared. He seems a scared type. Oh, man. This was intense, this scene. We have Stormfront. She encounters Kenji. And Stormfront's, everyone is loving Stormfront. Ooh, yeah. She's causing a lot of commotion within the people. She's like, I'm gonna cause some protesting against Vought. Here I go. And what's interesting is that Stormfront encounters Kenji, and she's like, ugh, you're gross. You're like yellow, and you're like gross, and you eat rice and other forms of racism. I don't know. She just racistly kills him. And I'm just thinking, oh man, she's just a big racist person. She actually is racist. I don't remember exactly what she says, but I do remember it's like what she says while killing Kenji. By the way, she kills Kenji in like the most intense way possible. Like, this is not humane at all. You seemed like you really hated that guy. You wanted him to suffer. And while she's like killing that guy, she's like screaming like, you slur used against Asian people, you suck, you know? You're the reason, you Asians are the reason why things are bad. She says that. She says all of that. I'm like, whoa, she's racist? Oh geez, this is a problem. This is a big problem. Also, what's interesting, Vought's clever. They're like, okay, well, we're going to contribute the creation of Compound V to just like these random mad scientists, just so it's off our back. I'm like, wow. Annie's attempt and the boys' attempt to leak Compound V and like what it does, they just covered it up with their many lawyers and legal team or whatever. PR team, public relations, yeah, the PR team. They have a strong PR team at Vought, and I'm just thinking, wow, this is intense. This season is just getting more intense. We're learning bad things about some of the soups. Homelander's a petulant child. It's crazy how much of a petulant child he is with how powerful he is. It was just that chick, Maddie, that was keeping him under control. And now that she's gone, he's like, I want things to be my way, you know? And then we have Stormlander is a racist, and A-Train's a Compound V addict. The Deep, although he's gone, is a sexual assaultist, and now he understands why he does it. Also, this is fun. Unzips himself. He's like going around Homelander. Hello. Just like this. And Homelander's like, ugh, cover your gills. It's gross. It's disgusting. That's the thing you say to somebody who just now got over their body issues. I mean, I understand Homelander doesn't care about the Deep. He didn't know that the Deep had his body issues. But still, it's just it's not fun. I can't imagine being in the Deep's position. I mean, I don't like what he did to Starlight, but I also don't like how Homelander is just dismissive of him. He's just like, I don't care about you. Leave. I don't want to see any of your gills. Your gills aren't sexy. They're actually incredibly gross and disgusting. And this episode just reveals more and more information, dirty secrets, so many dirty secrets. And I'm just thinking, okay, I want to see more. I want to see more of the boys. I want to see what's happening in the next few episodes. Please, please, please. I need it. Oh, I'm falling. Balancing. This balance is not good. I need it. I need more of the boys. I do like how Huey and Annie has to like sneak around. I like how Annie looks when she's like not in full costume versus when Huey is always looking the same, but Annie looks completely different when she's not in costume. I like that. I like that a lot. I gotta give this episode, because of how many spicy secrets it reveals, it makes me want to watch this episode a huge amount. I gotta give this episode is a solid 8.1 out of 10. I'm inside and I saw The Boys Season 2, Episode 4, Nothing Like It in the World. It is directed by Fred Toy, written by Michael Saltzman, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. First of all, this episode has got me on the edge of my seats. It kept me watching throughout the entirety, just bam, 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 turn after turn after turn after turn, new plot details added. First of all, we have confirmation of an older Soup, Liberty, And Billy Butcher now knows this information. And I'm like, okay, Billy Butcher's learning about this old soup, so Vought's older than he thought, and it's older than I thought. How long have they been doing compound V for? So Billy is like, all right, I've got this information. Here I go. Also, what's fun about this episode, it seems like more members of the Seven, more specifically Black Noir. Black Noir learns about Billy Butcher and how he's trying to take down the Seven, so he's after Billy Butcher. I'm like, no, please, Black Noir, please. You're so silent, and I don't like you because you're kind of scary to me. I'm not excited for the Billy Butcher fight between Billy Butcher and Black Noir, mainly because I don't think that Billy Butcher could go up against him even if he tried. Like, no matter how much he tried, Billy Butcher is not going to win that fight unless something happens. Annie is terrified of Homelander, and I would be too if I were in this situation with her. I kind of feel really bad for her. She's had to deal with a lot from the Seven, and now we have freaking Homelander is acting like a whole dictator, and he's just like, it has to be my way. You know, and so she's like, I'm done, I'm part of the boys now, and I hope they don't learn of my betrayal at all. Also, what's fun about this episode, speaking of Homelander, freaking Billy Butcher and Becca are trying to escape, just trying to flee, but she has a son, and the son is Ryan, and that's Homelander's kid. And I'm just thinking, oh, how is Billy Butcher going to react? Oh, you don't respect him because he's a soup. Well, Becca loves her son. She's going to just straight up be like, well, I'm not gonna go with you, okay? If you're not gonna accept my son, I'm not gonna go with you. And I'm like, man, this sucks because Becca, you're choosing to stay with the devil that you know versus the devil that you know. Well, I guess there are two devils that she knows. Which one will you choose? You decided to go with Homelander because Billy Butcher won't accept your son? Bro, just, I would not be there still. I would not be with Homelander at this point still. Even if Billy Butcher hated my son, I'd still be like, well, Homelander's worse because he sucks, and I don't want him to be teaching my son all these things that I don't want him to learn. And I'm just thinking, this is a tough choice, but I don't think Becca made the right one. What do you think, though? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, speaking of Homelander, Homelander's like, I have to make sure that the Seven is a powerful team. We have to have a powerful front. A-Train, you're no longer allowed here. Get out of here. I think it's really messed up how Homelander on live television is telling everyone how Maeve is just a lesbian. Oh, she's dating a girl. And I'm like, that's so messed up because, like, she didn't clear it, and I like the argument that they have afterward, but, like, she didn't clear it, and Homelander's just like, oh, yeah, let me just, like, throw one of my team members under the bus for no reason. I'm like, jeez, Homelander sucks, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he killed somebody. He has no regard for other people's feelings. He only cares about himself. But he's also like a very deep, sophisticated guy. He has reasons for what he's doing, so I understand. I just don't like Homelander. And I think it's really messed up what he did here. I don't think he should have done that. Been like, oh yeah, I'm just like, throw you under the bus, Maeve. Queen Maeve. Ugh. And now she has to deal with the fact that her partner that she's not necessarily in love with, she kind of want to breaks up with her. And now she's forced to stay with her because of company reasons. For publicity reasons. And she's dedicated her life to this company, and freaking Homelander is like, oh yeah, here, I'm gonna just put you in an uncomfortable spot. I'm like, I don't like that at all. Why are you doing this, Homelander? This episode looks at each character and kind of what the crises that they're going through. Each individual character kind of just deals with it in a scene or two. So we have Frenchie, he's realizing, oh, why do I try to protect you? It's because of all the past things that I've done, and I just wanted somebody to protect me, and so in those situations, so I want to protect you from future danger. But I understand, well, it takes a while for him to understand that she's actually her own person. She's wanting to make the decisions that she wants to do. Like, if she wants to do a hit, then it's her prerogative to do so. But it's not necessarily the moral thing, and I just want the relationship to get deeper between Frenchie and Kumiko. Kumiko, I gotta pronounce her name right. Kumiko. I have a tendency to pronounce names poorly. So there's that, and I like it, and this episode makes me think maybe they can like rehash, kind of deepen the relationship, because she never really taught him any sort of sign language, and so she's trying to communicate with him, but it's not working because there's no way for them to communicate. She's not teaching them sign language, and I think that she should have taught him sign language. Come on, you can't just leave somebody in the dark. Whoever wants to talk to you, you can't just leave them in the dark forever, you know? So anyway, there's that, and then also the deep is now deep. Haha, get it? Deep into a cult, a church cult. It just reminds me of Scientology, but it's like given a different name. And it's like, this is totally a cult. Like, this screams cult to me. And he's given an arranged marriage. And so I just suspect that he has to do whatever he can to kiss these guys' butt, you know? Just kiss it. All that fun jazz. I'm just intrigued as to what will happen in the next upcoming episodes. This episode made me feel intrigued. It made me very excited for the future of the boys. Watching this, and then with it ending, I'm just like, okay, something's gonna happen. Nothing in the boys makes me bored, and this episode is especially pushing the point that I'm not bored at all while watching this episode, and it makes me want to watch more of the boys. I'm excited for the rest of season 2, excited for season 3, and whenever season 4 comes out, I'm also excited to watch that. So I gotta give this episode is a solid like 7.5 out of 10. I'm in Salad, and I saw The Boys Season 2, Episode 5. We gotta go now. It is directed by Baton Silva, written by Ellie Monahan, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts, and we're following Homelander, and he's being sent to deal with a problem. Hey, go deal with that problem. And you wanna know what Homelander's solution is to this problem? He just flies in really quickly, sees a guy is causing chaos and mayhem, and just blasts him and then flies away. No negotiation tactic used whatsoever. He just straight up just kills a person. And of course, I'm upset by this. Didn't try at all, man. And oh man, he comes back, and we have freaking Vought's got like a camera, and they're like, dude, what? He didn't even try. And I'm like, he didn't even try. And so Homelander's first response is like, ugh, they're causing trouble, mayhem, ugh, they suck, ugh. I actually don't regret killing them at all. They're subhuman. He says that. And I'm like, Homelander, you can't just kill people. Like, wow, what? Dude, you can't just do that to people. And of course the public agrees. They're like, Homelander kills. And I'm like, he does kill people. He's the worst. This is PR nightmare. Oh boy, and I just see Vought like trying to fix this, right? They're going all, how are we going to solve this pickle? And I'm like, I don't think you can, Vought. Ooh. This episode has got me feeling so many ways, so many strong emotions. Also, Stormfront, she helps Homelander. Of course, since she is Liberty, she has experience with being hidden by Vought And so she knows exactly what Homelander is going through. So she's the person to help out Homelander. She does help out Homelander, and it does quell the people. What's fun, though, about Homelander and Stormfront is the relationship blossoms because the both of them are immortal, and they're more powerful than everyone else, so they can just relate to each other, and so they enter a furious kissu, sexu relationship going on. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like it. I also know that Stormfront knows that Homelander is more powerful than her. Like, there was a confrontation on Homelander and Stormfront, but she was able to weasel her way out of it. And so I'm thinking that Stormfront is having sex with Homelander and saying all the right things so she can be protected and not be the target of Homelander's rage, because everybody in the Seven who is not on Homelander's good side, Homelander hates, and Homelander pretty much hates almost everybody in the Seven. He's just going around like, oh, hey, Maeve, you're lesbian. You know, this is not good. Going against Starlight, going against the Deep, going against A-Train. He's making a lot of enemies here. Speaking of Homelander, though, let's go look at what Billy Butcher is doing. He's sulking. He's sad. He's sad he can't convince Becca to come with him. But you wouldn't accept her son, dude. What do you expect? Like, she's been with that son longer than probably you guys have been married together, so I mean, and not even like the length of time, even if you were married longer than she had the son for. She's had that son for in her life for a long time now, and you really haven't been, so she's going to choose the son, so I completely understand her decision. And Butcher is sulking, but luckily we have the boys to take him out of that sulking. We have a mission, we have a goal, we have to take him down. We have to take down Vought. I do like how Black Noir is on their trail, on their tail? What's the phrase? Trail or tail? Whatever, it means the same thing. Black Noir discovers Billy Butcher and also the rest of the boys, and is like, I'm gonna have a big old fight with you. And it's like, oh geez, Butcher, you're getting pummeled. You're going to die if you keep this up. Luckily though, I like how quick it's turned. Oh hey, by the way, don't you know that Homelander has a son? So don't go telling people about how Starlight exposed Compound V, creating all these superheroes. We're gonna expose Homelander's son. And then Black Noir backs off. I'm like, ooh yeah, here we go. We're doing blackmail time. I'm loving it. Ooh, spicy. Also, Stormfront knows that Annie released information about Compound V, right? And is just full on going to her mom, butting into the conversations that they're having, and is like, it's okay, I'm her friend. And then her mom tells Stormfront about their personal relationship, and Annie hates her mom, so I'm just thinking this is a bad situation for Annie, and I know what Stormfront's doing. She knows that Annie leaked the Compound V, so she's going to try to infiltrate her way in subtly any way she can, or just like being friendly with her mom, getting on her mom's good graces, even though Annie's not on her mom's good graces and her mom's not on Annie's good graces. You know, it's just it's an entirely insane situation. And also, I like how Starlight has a piece of blackmail on her own, okay? When Stormfront's like, I know you did the Compound V leakings. Annie's like, well, I know you're Liberty, and I know that you murdered somebody out of racist reasons. If you expose me, I'm going to expose you. And they back off of each other. I'm like, oh man, we're at a standstill. Of a bunch of characters are at a standstill in this episode. I wonder who's gonna win ultimately, you know? Also, Homelander made a bad enemy, Maeve. You shouldn't just expose her relationship, her gay relationship like that. now Vought's selling a bunch of LGBTQ plus branded stuff, and it's just like, yeah, they're doing it for marketing reasons. It makes her look great in the media, but Maeve didn't want that to happen, and so she's like, I am plotting Homelander's downfall. He's going to go down. And also, I do like how she goes to the Deep and try to recruit to go against Homelander, but the Deep's deep into a cult, pretty much. The Church of whatever. I forget what what it is called, but the Church of whatever. It reminds me of Scientology, and it's just a cult here, and he's in this cult to get back to the Seven, so he can't be plotting against Homelander. I don't know what Maeve is thinking. Maybe she doesn't quite know fully what's going on with the Deep, but I don't think the Deep's going to be on your side, Maeve. That's just what I think. So this episode is so spicy. People are betraying each other. People are blackmailing each other. We're on full-on warfare between Vought, more specifically Homelander and Stormfront, and the boys. And also Black Noir is there too. And he's also part of Vought too. So it's Homelander, Stormfront, Vought, and also Black Noir versus the boys. And I'm like, oh, it's like, it's so spicy! The spiciness levels are so hard to contain. I'm so excited for what's coming up next in this season. I really like this episode. It made me feel like I just have to watch the other ones. The ones coming up, and then season 3. Like, I just have to. I gotta know more. So I give this episode's like a solid, like, it's like a 7.7 out of 10. I'm inside and I saw The Boys, Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off. It is directed by Sarah Boyd, written by Anselm Richardson, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. So this episode starts and we're following Frenchie and Kumiko and also Mother's Milk. They break into a facility and just release all the Compound V patients. They just do that, you know? They were intending on making sure everyone broke out, but everyone ended up breaking out. And I'm like, oh, this is a disaster. You also want to know what's a disaster? Starlight is kidnapped and put into this cell with no light whatsoever. And I'm just thinking, this sounds and looks terrifying. I couldn't stand being in a box like that. Like, I don't know how she's going to be able to do it. She seems like she's going to madly suffer, and I do like the bonus of no lights in there, so she cannot use any of her powers. And like, man, Vought knows exactly what they're doing. They're here to yoink up Starlight and make sure that she's a prisoner forever. And I'm just curious, how long did they intend on keeping Starlight in that cage for? It's also being publicized how Starlight is a traitor. She's a traitor to Vought, everyone. And now it seems like everyone is being primed to go against Starlight. Everyone who's in the public, who's like, yeah, I'm on Vought's side, woohoo, superheroes, you know, they're like, we're not on Starlight's side. So I would imagine that even if she wasn't locked up, she would have a hard time trying to convince anyone, actually, that Vought is doing some shady stuff. Amongst one of those people, though, who was taken out of that facility, we got Lamplighter. And he used to be part of the Seven, but he's no longer part of the Seven. And I do like how he's in a predicament where he's forced to side on the side of the boys because A, they released him and Vought locked him up. And I'm just thinking, ooh, I wonder what he did to warrant such a lockup. Like, did you kill somebody? I don't even think that was it, because Homelander and frickin' Stormfront has killed somebody and they're not being locked up right now. I mean, Stormfront killed somebody as Liberty and then, like, her entire identity changed as a result. So Lamplighter must have done something really horrendous or something against Vought to warrant him being locked up here. Through this, they learn the extent of the Compound V testing. They're testing it on adults now. I'm like, so there's gonna be just adult superheroes? How much money do you have to have in order to make yourself a superhero? Can any rich billionaire just be a superhero? I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, because then any just rich guy can just be like, I'm a superhero now, and it's like, where that guy's priorities lie, though? Is it saving the folks that are just too poor to give him money, and so he doesn't care about them or something? I don't think that you should do adult Compound V. I mean, you shouldn't do Compound V at all, but if you're gonna choose babies doing Compound V and freaking adults doing it, I really think you should just have them do babies, honestly. But both are bad, but between the two, I'd choose babies, because adults already have their motivations, what they're going to do with the Compound V once they have it. Sure, there will probably be some really good people come out of this, but there's also going to be like megalomaniacs, is that the right term? Supervillains that come out of this, like billionaire supervillains. Like, imagine if Batman was a bad guy. That's what I would imagine happen with adult Compound V. What's also interesting is that Stormfront's the very first Compound V test subject, and she was the first successful one. Why was Stormfront chosen, though? Well, she's a widow to the founder, and this was during the 30s. And I do like her telling the whole entire backstory of her to Homelander, and it's like, oh, she's like a really bad person. She's an actual Nazi. She was part of the Nazi party. Like, how much more Nazi can you get? I wonder what Homelander thinks about this, but the episode doesn't really focus on what Homelander thinks. It just kind of is like, yeah, I was the first Compound V guy, and if it weren't for me, you wouldn't be here, Homelander. And I think that must make Homelander feel really unimportant, I guess, because he's just another one of those guys. He's just another guy, and Stormfront's the first guy. And now I think there's a power play. There's like a power struggle between Homelander and Stormfront that's like subtly happening. I think Stormfront's actually going to take the power, because she's doing little manipulation tactics to Homelander. She's like, oh yeah, I was actually here before you, and I know that you're not as powerful. I'm not as powerful as you, but I can talk you down. And so I think she's eventually just going to take over VOD. She's already started. She's got people protesting like, no more VOD or whatever. You know, she's like the leader of the rebellion, but it's all a ploy. I don't trust Stormfront at all. What's interesting, Mauve finds some GoPro in the ocean, and that has some video evidence of Homelander not saving the plane. He let it crash. Ooh, I'm so excited. I really want Maeve to, like, Mauve, whatever, however you pronounce her name. I just want her to pull that card eventually, like, Homelander, I have proof that you did not save this plane. And I'm like, ooh, this is exciting. Ooh, things are heating up. Also, A-Train is going to the church that the Deep's part of, and I'm like, oh, is the church where everybody goes where they're not accepted by the Seven anymore because Homelander kicks them out / they're not allowed at the Seven anymore? Alright, okay. I feel like the church is gaining more and more power, and I would not be surprised if more the Seven members became part of the church. This episode has got me all like, ooh, it's so juicy. Got a bunch of juicy stuff going on. Ooh, you know, I like it. I'm really excited to see what happens in episode 7 and episode 8. I gotta give this episode, it's a solid 7.7 out of 10. I'm inside and I saw The Boys Season 2 Episode 7. Butcher Baker Candlestick Maker. It is directed by Stefan Schwartz, written by Craig Rosenberg, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts and we're following the boys, and more specifically, we're following Lamplighter, and he's scheduled to be a witness against Vots at this trial. And what's interesting is that Huey's like, hey, Lamplighter, do you want to come with me to Vought's base? And so we could find Annie and like capture and grab her because she was captured and napped, and I don't want her to be napped anymore. All right, let's go. And then they go on their merry way. And what's fun is Lamplighter, he sees the statues of the boys, and Lamplighter's completely gone. And he's like, oh, this makes me really sad and depressed. I'm gonna catch myself on fire. And then he just does it. And Huey's like, what? You know, I was also like, what? I was like, why'd you do this? You were literally introduced like maybe an episode or two ago. Now you're just dead. Aw, man, Lamplighter, you're the key witness in this trial, man. Oh, man. Also, I do like Huey, though. He releases Starlight, and then Starlight comes to the place in which Huey was just at and where Lamplighter was just at, burning himself, and Starlight's there, and also Black Noir is there. I'm like, oh boy, they're gonna have a fight. And have a fight they do. What's fun about the fight is I see Black Noir having a clear advantage over Starlight. Ooh, yeah. And I see her not using her powers whatsoever. I'm like, there's a little bit of light in the room. Like, why aren't you using your powers? Are you just too distracted by Black Noir being such a better martial artist and fighter than you? I don't know if he does martial arts, but he does fight. And he's fighting, he is. Oh boy. Starlight's having a time. She's like losing. And then Queen Maeve, she comes in. She's like, pulls up the mask, shoves an almond joy into his mouth, and he's just having an allergic reaction episode. He's trying to do the EpiPen and she kicks it away. I'm like, ooh. Wow, I didn't know that Starlight's favorite candy, Almond Joy, is Black Noir's weakness. I also see it as pretty much they're parallels, okay? So Starlight is, you know, Starlight, she's very bright, and Black Noir is just a vacuum of light. And so I see Starlight loving Almond Joy. It's like her, it's not her weakness, it's like her strength, I'd say. It makes her happy, she likes eating the Almond Joys. And then Black Noir, it's the opposite for him. He's not having a great time, you know? Whenever he eats an Almond Joy, he's having an allergic reaction. So these two are parallel on that way, plus literally their names and also their powers and appearance are pretty much opposite from each other. I like this a lot. And then Starlight's like, oh, thank you. And then she's like, don't worry about it. And then she just walks away and like not caring at all. And I'm like, So I'm not sure for what reason Queen Maeve put herself into this conflict, except for that she doesn't like Black Noir, and Black Noir has taken advantage of her. I'm not exactly sure what happened in the past, but I do know that Queen Maeve has been the big old target before Starlight was, okay? Starlight's the newbie. Queen Maeve was the newbie female once on the team. Just imagine what things could have happened, what things the Deep did to her. You know, I'm just curious about the whole backstory, but this episode doesn't really explain it. So the witness for this case is just gone now. He made himself charred. He could put himself on a grill, and it would be looking like that, you know? So Butcher, instead, he's like, I'm going to convince the scientist, and if he's not going to do it out of the kindness of his heart, I'm going to strong arm him. I'm going to force him to do it. And so, now we're at the trial. And this is my favorite part of the episode. So we're at the trial. Uh-oh, Vought's going to have a trial against them. And then we have the guy doing the opening speech. After everyone sat down, the judge sits down. And then we got like the chair commissioner, some dude in like power. He's opening the courts. Okay, he's opening the case, and then his head explodes. And it's like, what's happening? Homelander's there, by the way. And it seems like he doesn't know what's going on because he's like watching. He's like, what? What's going on? And Stormfront doesn't know what's happening either. I'm like, who's popping people's heads, man? And then a bunch of people's heads just start exploding, including the new speedster. I'm like, what is going on? No! Stop with the head popping, please! Ah! Also, what I love about this episode is that freaking Stormfront and Homelander convince Ryan that Becca sucks. How does he do this? Well, he's been very sheltered his entire life, and he's like, I don't know how to use my powers. Oh my goodness, Mom's been lying to me this entire time. I'm very angry at her and I don't want to talk to her anymore. I'm gonna go with Homelander and Stormfront. And then they go. And we're like, well, off they go. I'm sorry, Becca. They have your son now. This makes me sad, but I'm also curious as to what type of parents Homelander could be to Ryan, you know? Ryan has never really had like an intimate conversation with his father before. And Becca doesn't really have his powers, so Homelander might be the guy to talk to on how to develop his powers. But Ryan's a really good kid. Like, he's so good at heart, you know? I don't think at this age he could be corrupted by Homelander. Only shown how to use his powers, but that's just my prediction. Becca keeps insisting on how he's a good kid, and Ryan keeps insisting on how much he doesn't really want to be like Homelander, and how he's not like Homelander, you know? So, I'm excited for the season finale. Ooh, things are getting real spicy, a bunch of head poppers. Who could be doing the head popping, man? I don't know who could be doing it. So, I gotta give this episode, based on how much tension there is, plus the suddenness and like my emotional reaction to it, to the head popping specifically, I gotta give this episode, it's like a solid 8 out of 10. I'm in sound and I saw The Boys Season 2 Episode 8. What I Know. It is directed by Alex Grays, written by Rebecca Sonnenschein. And if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. This episode starts and we're following Becca, and she goes to Butcher. She goes running to Butcher, and I have a hair on my face. She goes running to Butcher. She's like, no, they took Ryan. So she has to employ the boys' help in order to get Ryan back. And they create this entire elaborate plan. What's also interesting is that Butcher goes to Stan Edgar. It is like, hey, I'll cut a deal, okay? I can get Ryan back and Becca, and they have to be together. And then what's interesting is that there's a whole deal goes back and forth, and Butcher eventually realizes that he can't be with his wife, and that's all he wants to do is just be with his wife. At the meeting, he's like, yeah, it's just gonna be Becca and us, and then the kid's gonna be off alone with you guys. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. You shouldn't trust a corporation to raise one child, because then that corporation is going to corrupt that child. That is what I believe. But we got the plan going through. All right, here we go. We gotta find a way to get Ryan back. Well, what else is happening in the episode before we get to the point where they can get Ryan back? We got some deets on Stormfront. A-Train really wants back in the 7, and the person that's causing him to not be on the 7 is Stormfront. So he's like, we gotta get rid of Stormfront. Get rid of her now. And I'm like, please do, she sucks. I also like this line from Butcher. How could you make like a person, the worst person ever, like a literal Nazi, into America's sweetheart? You know, that's not the exact quote, but that's pretty much what the quote was about. And I liked that quote, and I'm like, oh boy, this is a really good line about Stormfront's position in the American culture. Like, people think she's amazing. She's rallying people up. She's rallying people behind a cause. And I'm like, I wonder how Hitler did it. Was it the same techniques that Stormfront's doing? People just love hearing what she has to say. She loves rallying up the people, pretty much rallying up the troops. And I'm just thinking, that's what happened in the 30s, okay? That's what caused all the genocide, man. We're going down the wrong road, man. We're leading to a road that's just going to cause more and more massacres if Stormfront is in power, okay? She's not a good person to be in power. I'm like, I want her down. I want her done. I want her killed. That's what I feel about Stormfront. I just hate her. I hate her so much. But she has this charming ability to talk to people, and then people are like, yeah, we're so lovely. We're so loving you. Ah! You know, they just can't keep her hands off of Stormfront. What's also interesting, we have Stormfront and Homelander with Ryan, and they're having a little bit of a conversation. They're at the cabin. What's fun about this conversation is that Stormfront goes down to Ryan while they're trying to train him how to use his powers, right? It's easier if you imagine someone you hate, right? That's what Homelander says. It's like, I don't really hate anyone. And then Stormfront's like, don't you know we're at war currently? They want to get rid of us just for the color of our skin. And then Ryan's like, really? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not what's happening at all. Stop corrupting this child, Stormfront. Stop with all this nonsense. The boys have a plan to take Ryan from Homelander and Stormfront and return him back to Becca. And I'm like, okay, cool. And Vought's in this too. They have like a whole device that makes it so Soups can hear this frequency. Homelander goes out to destroy it, then he realizes that he's been distracted. He goes back to the house, and a bunch of people are there. A bunch of Vought's soldiers. Pow, you know, we know what they're doing. And then Homelander's like, okay, what's happening? He just splits a guy down the middle, and it's just one guy's dead. I'm like, oh man. And then he walks out of the cabin and all the guys are dead. All the blood's on him. And I'm like, too much hair in my mouth. Ew. Too hairy of a wig. Too much hair in this wig. Anyway, Homelander is just covered in blood. And he's trying to find Ryan. But we have the plan is already in motion. We got Ryan. Now they're just walking through the woods. Butcher, Becca, Ryan are walking through the woods, and wow, Stormfront's there. Stormfront goes directly after Becca. And I'm just like, ooh, please no. And it's already shown that Becca is very weak. Especially when compared to frickin' Stormfront, and Stormfront's here I'm gonna choke you against this tree. Look at me. I want to see the light come out of your eyes. I'm like, no, you suck. And Butcher's there with a crowbar, and shots are ineffective against her. She's bulletproof. And Ryan's like, please stop it. And then he just gets the red in his eye, and it's just directs it directly at Stormfront. Stormfront is not super obliterated. I mean, her what are these called? What's at the elbows and at the knees? Those parts are gone, and she's charred, which is great power scaling, because earlier in the season it was shown that Homelander can blast at her and it would just really hurt, but it wouldn't obliterate her. This Ryan is much more powerful than Homelander, which makes me really hope that he's a really good guy, that he's a Superman type, a Clark Kent type, not whatever the heck Homelander is. I really don't want Ryan to become Homelander. What's also fun is now we have Ryan is crying, Butcher's got Becca's neck because it's bleeding, Ryan couldn't control his powers. He didn't get told how to control his powers. So while Stormfront was like the main attack, Becca got some collateral damage, and so Butcher's there holding her neck, trying to stop it from bleeding. She's like, protect him. He's a good kid. He's so good. Protect him. And then after she's dead, Butcher's like grabbing a crowbar. I'm like, are you planning on like hurting him right after you promised to Becca? Like, just in so much rage. And then Homelander comes in, is like, come here, son. And Ryan chooses Butcher. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Ryan hates Homelander, and Homelander is just covered in guts and blood. I'm like, awesome. This is so cool. I'm so excited. Homelander is like, all right, I'm content. I get it, Ryan. You want to go with Butcher? All right, you can go with Butcher. Just do that. I guess I'm just gonna fly away now. I'm like, wow, that was a win. How fascinating. Also, what's interesting is now we have Huey. He's at the end, he's like, you know, I just want to stand on my own 2 feet. I'm no longer part of the boys. He just doesn't want to have any sort of involvement with them. From the conversation I see, he just doesn't mesh well with the people there. I'm like, okay, you should stay with the boys. You're really good for Butcher, man. Like, everyone keeps telling you that. Frickin' Becca told Butcher that you were good for him. Why are you leaving? But alas, he just decides to just leave. Off we go. And what's interesting, we get the identity of the head popper. Also, the head of the church of the collective. He's talking to this lady. I have everything I need to take down Stan Edgar. Also, I should mention, speaking of the Church of the Collective, we have A-Train is back on the team. What's interesting, I hate the Deep so much. When there's even just a slight hint of negativity that could be had, like, oh, somebody did something, you know, somebody did something bad, the Deep's like, the A-Train, ugh. And it's like, actually, it's good news. It's like, oh, okay. And then A-Train was let in the 7, not the Deep. A-Train's like, you bitches, haha, gotta you guys. They're like, yeah. And it seems like everyone's using Stormfront as a scapegoat. It is revealed that she's a Nazi to the public. She's like, and she has to like leave, and then she comes back and does the whole confrontation with Becca and Butcher. I love it. Pictures of her sitting next to Vought. She's a Nazi. And everyone's just making memes about her being a Nazi now. I'm like, this is so amazing. I love her speech. She's like, man, everybody loves it. What words I'm saying. Everyone just loves the words. And everyone's behind me. They just hate the word Nazi. I'm like, yeah, dude. You're rallying people up for like the wrong reasons, man. Oh man, Stormfront, I hate her. I'm so glad she's gone. Also, what's fun is now we have Homelander and Starlight and Maeve. They're on a press thing together. They're on a conference thing. I don't remember what it's called. I don't know what it's called. But a conference thing. Homelander's like, thank goodness for Starlight and Queen Maeve. They're my best friends. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not best friends. No, they're not best friends. Okay, also, back to Huey, though, because my thoughts are a little bit scattershot. So Huey's like, I don't want to be part of the boys. I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. And I get the identity of the head popper. And the head popper is actually running for Congress. And then Huey goes into her frickin' office and is like, hey, I need a job. She, on the surface, looks to be against Vought. But I think she's secretly working for Vought. But anyways, so I like this a lot, okay? So Huey's just going into the frickin' room with her, with the enemy, but he doesn't know is the enemy. And she's like, when can you work? And I'm like, geez, dude, I bet she knows you're part of the boys, and that's why, like, she's so willing to hire you, man. But that's the end of the episode. I've said so many things about this episode. So many things happen in this episode. Whoo, boy. So many good character moments. I honestly thought that Billy Butcher was going to butcher Ryan, but instead, he's like, I'm going to protect him for Becca's sake. And I'm like, that's so sweet. I love that. That's amazing. I was going to touch my heart, but my mic's on my heart. I love it. And then also Homelander, I feel like he has some sort of scheme to get Ryan back, but he's taken a step back. He's going to plan, and I bet he's going to execute on that plan sometime in season 3. There's so much setup for season 3. I'm just very excited for it. This episode, it just kept me watching, and I was hooked the entire time until the very end, and I was like, I want more season 3. Give me more season 3 of The Boys. This episode gets a solid 8.2 out of 10. If you like this review, watch another one. The platform really likes that. If you want to fast track a movie review, you can do that for $20 redeemos at patreon.com/ASEPresents. And if you'd like to help support the daily grindiness of all them daily movies, go to this link tree, find the way you can help support the daily grind of all them daily movies. So go here. And until next time, mint salad, I'll see you later, my sauerkrauts on some bacon bits. Oh.